Stepmom spent my college fund and dad didn't care, so I went to my grandparents and they made me their heir instead. My relationship with my dad has never been the best, but it didn't have to be the absolute worst, although my stepmother made sure of it by going on putting negative things about me in his head. Just a year back, my parents got a divorce and within 6 months my dad had married another woman. Initially, I had my doubts and later it got confirmed. My parents got divorced because my dad was cheating on my mom, and as it turns out, this new lady was the one behind all of it. On further confrontation, my dad kept on explaining how he was so unhappy in his marriage, but I honestly was not interested in any of that. I love both of my parents and I did not want to get in the middle of this ugly fight. My mom had to go through a lot of stress and decided to take some time off for herself. I felt that she deserves it, and although I was not too enthusiastic to live with my dad, it was my only option. Mom was moving out of town and it was the middle of the year and changing schools would be really difficult. So I decided to stay with my dad until the next break. Because of my dad's business, we could never spend a lot of time together during my childhood. Things stayed the same, even though he has a new wife now. I wasn't too upset because, after his cheating, it just made me look at him differently. So most of the time it was just my stepmom and me in the house. Most of the time it was just me because she was always outside, hanging out with her friends, going to cafes and restaurants, and posting pictures of all of those or just shopping. At that point, my dad's business was not going too well as far as I remembered. And my stepmother did not do anything. She was a housewife. So it was a little weird for me to think that my dad was giving her that much money to just spend on leisure. It took me some time to understand what was happening under my nose. Turns out my stepmother started spending money saved for my college by my mom. Of course, I tried to speak to her, but she was very rude to me. She felt no guilt and straight up told me to take it to my dad if I have any problem with it. So that's what I did, and imagine my surprise when my dad behaved like it was nothing. At first, he tried to change the narrative by saying that I had misunderstood the whole situation. He asked me if I was sure about this accusation. So I went into detail to explain how I had checked the amount and I was sure about it. I also told him that his wife herself confessed it to me and was very rude. He told me that it was not a big deal and I am just overreacting. I was shocked to hear that. This was not something I expected from my dad. I tried my best to make him understand, but he just told me that he would arrange for some money before the time finally comes for me to go to college. He said that if there is money in the family, there is no point in keeping it for my future when someone else in the family needs it. Believe me when I say that I was 1 second from screaming out loud in frustration. I could definitely involve my mother, but she was already going through a lot at that time. I did not want to stress her out more. So I took some time to think about it and consulted some of my friends, and after thinking properly I decided that there is only one person who can help me out. And so I took that person's help. And finally, I showed my dad the papers, which would change his perspective and in the long run, his life. He begged me to think again, to stop and not do this. But he had it coming. I had to go to my grandparents. My parents were young when they got married, which is why my grandparents, specifically my grandpa, did not approve of it. My dad comes from old money, but his parents were never too fond of him and his lifestyle. I always thought that my dad is someone who values hard work and honesty, but over the last few years, it was very clear that all he wanted was money. And he counted on my grandparents for money. He lied to me my entire life by telling me that he never took a single penny from them after he got married to my mom, when in reality, he used to ask for money for my education. And my grandparents always sent extra so I could have the best life. At this point, it is not even surprising to me that I never really got any of that money. So when my grandparents got to know about this, boy, they were furious. They never really liked my mom, but after knowing that my mom had worked so hard to build a college fund for me, they had a newfound respect for her. My grandparents decided to name me their heir instead of my dad. I took a copy of my grandfather's will and went to meet my dad. Initially, I planned to talk to him and see what is his reaction, but it was pointless as he did not wish to even see my face. He was angry with me because I complained about his wife spending money that was saved for me. I was the victim here and he was angry at me for trying to speak. That was it, and I did not care about the consequences anymore. So I showed him the papers and that was when he snapped. It was weird to see his entire personality shift, and suddenly he was all nice and sweet to me. He tried to remind me how important I am to him and even yelled at his wife in front of me to show that he loves me. But this display was enough to make me realize that everything he was doing was just for the money and nothing else. And I was just a pawn to him. But I was done. Even though he tried his best to manipulate me, I kept on saying that I don't care. And like the liar he was, after a few attempts he gave up the drama and started yelling at me for being a bad daughter. He blamed me for his divorce from my mom and said that I was a problem child. But I was over all of it. I was done with the text and I knew better than to be bothered by these. I decided to instantly move out. Update 1. It's been 3 days since I moved out. I was a little hesitant to move in with my grandparents, although they had offered it multiple times. After that entire confrontation with my dad, I could think of nobody else but my best friend, and I decided to crash at her, please. Her parents were kind to me and told me that I could stay with them for as long as I wanted to. But I did not want to take advantage of their generosity. I am thinking of actually moving in with my grandparents for the time being, but before that, I think I must talk to my mom about it. She still does not know anything because I begged my grandparents not to call her, and my dad could not say anything even if he wanted to because my mom had blocked him from everywhere. Update 2. A whole week has passed. I am currently living with my grandparents. It actually feels kind of nice to live with them. It feels like home. I remember all those years when I used to ask my dad if we could meet my grandparents at least for the holiday, but he was never really interested in it. I mean, it was not like he even stayed for the holidays. Staying with my grandparents is feeling more like home than staying with my dad. My mom knows everything now. I had a very intriguing conversation with her. She was very worried at first, but after getting to know that I have dealt with my dad in my way, she said that she was proud of the woman that I was becoming. She said I was as logical as I could be and admired that. My dad has tried to contact me multiple times. He even tried to contact my grandfather, but my grandfather was in no mood for any of this crap. I don't know for how long he will continue. He has tried all sorts of tricks, but not even once did he think that he should apologize for his past behaviors. It seems like he only cares about money. It hurts me to think that my father does not care about me or my feelings. Update 3. It's almost a month now. Life is easier and stress-free. My dad continues to try to contact us. A week earlier he tried to get past the guard and interrupted our dinner. He started yelling and was very loud. My grandfather also started yelling and told him how disappointed he was. Then my dad continues to yell at me and say how I am just like my mother and both of us have only brought him down. I was very hurt after this, but my grandmother consoled me. I have accepted that my dad does not care about me, but I am sure I will heal. It will take some time, but I will heal. Update 4. It's been 2 months since I moved in with my grandparents. My mom has also started living with us, but she is looking for an apartment right now. My dad was really persistent, but he had a conversation with my mom regarding my custody. I don't know what my mom said or did, but he seems to have backed off for now. However, I am sure he will try to bond with me again because I am the only way for him to get access to his own parents' money. His wife turned out to be a real gold digger. As soon as she had no money to spend, she started acting distant from him to the point where I recently heard that she is cheating on him. I don't know how much of that is true, but honestly, I don't care anymore. I just want to be happy with my family. My grandparents and my mom. Okay, I know this makes me a bit of a weirdo, but I don't have a TV or home internet. Or really any tech at home except my phone. I don't even take my work laptop home. It's not like I'm not online at all. I love listening to podcasts or YouTube video essays on my phone when I'm working on home renovations or my cars. I just honestly get sick of sitting around looking at screens after working a desk job all day. And honestly, I don't feel like I'm missing anything. I hardly have time in the day to do everything I want to do already. But even during my downtime, I'd probably rather smoke a bowl and go out to stargaze or chill in the greenhouse. My boyfriend has probably a more normal relationship with tech. He has a TV and has Netflix, Disney Plus and a few other streaming services I forget, and is usually watching a few shows. And he has a gaming PC, and a laptop. He games a few nights a week. He's got other hobbies, he plays hockey and runs too, but those don't take all his time. It's a little annoying for me when I come to hang out with him at his apartment and the main stuff to do is watch a movie or game or watch TV, but we've found enough movies we both like for some chill nights in. But he gets super bored when he's over at my house. Which is more often, because he has an apartment he shares with his cousin, and I bought a house that was a total fixer-upper at first but is now getting pretty nice. We like to spend the weekends together, and he gets super bored without Wi-Fi and frustrated that he's on a limited data plan and is wasting his data. I've suggested he goes to the corner coffee shop if he wants to look something up, and he says it's not just one thing. He feels cut off from the world. He keeps trying to tell me I should get TV and internet and maybe a gaming console for my house, and saying he'll let me share his streaming services, Steam, etc. And I'm honestly not interested. It costs a lot here for the internet, and all the stuff like a TV or console would cost extra too. So I've told him he can bring a TV or computer or whatever. I've finished the attic but haven't done anything with it yet, so it could be a little game room/home theater. But he says it wouldn't even work without Wi-Fi and he's not paying my internet bills. So we keep on having this conflict. He resents I don't have anything to do when he stays with me, and I feel frustrated that he wants me to drop hundreds or thousands on gadgets and internet. He feels like it's a basic utility and a pretty basic expectation if you have guests, and I've honestly started feeling kinda offended he feels so bored by my company he'd rather watch TV in my house instead of hanging out. Am I the a-hole for not having internet/TV/games at my house, when my boyfriend stays over most weekends? I, 17, female, during the summer right before break went on a school trip to Rome, Italy with people from across the year group, including a couple that can't seem to stay away from each other, which I found very funny at first. I went on my own, as my friends weren't able to come, which I didn't mind. Because the group of kids we went with were known for being well behaved, the teachers were very lax and strict about most things, like for example, obviously weren't allowed in the boys' hotel rooms but people still managed to sneak into them, including the couple. During the day, the couple never leaves each other's side and they're basically inseparable. So, keep in mind, the girl is with her boyfriend the whole trip. One day we go on a tour bus and it ends up being kind of filled up but not packed. I managed to get a seat near to the front, right where the bus still has shade but you can still have a great view, and the seat beside me was empty. I liked my seat. I had made sure to wait all the way at the front just to get it. Because the bus was sort of packed, everyone either sat next to each other or strangers, but the couple was too slow, so they had to sit separately. As I was the only one with space next to me, the girl of the couple decided to come up to me and ask me to give up my seat so they could sit together, and since I didn't want to, especially since the seat was all the way at the back, I declined. This genuinely upset the girl to the point where she told our teacher, who didn't really respond to her, and for the rest of the trip, she didn't speak to me or look in my direction. Her boyfriend also seemed indifferent, but he also appeared to also be kind of annoyed. I felt bad because I suppose they considered it a couple's vacation and didn't want to be apart from each other, but the girl I share a room with at the hotel said she wouldn't have given up the seat either. The girl looked distraught and it seemed to have ruined her day. The bus ride lasts about an hour, and she didn't really speak much after that. Am I the a-hole for not letting them sit with each other?